Hey everybody, it's GombletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another sealed event of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. In just a week, next Friday, we have an arena open that will be sealed day 1, draft day 2. So pretty high stakes limited event, so I'd like to get some practice in of both of those formats, sealed and draft. So here we are with my second sealed event on arena. So let's see what we pop open, hopefully get some sweet rares, but if not, then we'll get some practice with what happens with a bad sealed pool. That being said, looks like a pretty good sealed pool here for potentially like black and green. We see Invoke Despair, pretty big rare if you can commit to that much black mana. With the white rare here, Invoke Justice, and the green rare here, Invoke the Ancients, you have a very similar problem. All three of these cards are quite powerful. I think the strongest one is probably Invoke the Ancients. They're just very, very color restrictive, so the fact that you have to hit 4 mana sources of the color that they are, so for Invoke the Ancients green, means you're not often going to be playing this for only 5 mana, even if that's what it costs. In some games, you'll just have it in your hand and never be able to cast it. So if you think of it this way, if you have 17 lands in your deck, and if you have a 10-7 split, say you have 10 forests, 7 swamps, with 10 forests in the deck, that's 1 out of every 4 cards in your 40-card deck. So on average, in order to get 4 green sources, if it's 1 out of every 4 cards, that'd be 16 cards deep into your deck. You open 7 in your opener once you've drawn 9 more cards. So turn 9 on average, you'd be able to have quadruple green for Invoke the Ancients if you don't have any other way to search out the correct lands or to add them out of any colors. So ideally, if you're going to be playing these cards, you're going to be incredibly heavy into their colors, even potentially mono-colored if you're drafting them. Not really a thing you can do in sealed. Or, alternatively, you have a lot of ways to help with your mana. Have some ways to tap for a mana of any color, have some ways to pull out whatever basic you need from your deck, and also have more mana sources of the Invoke that you're running's color than your secondary color. So ideally, you'd be like a 10-7 or even 11-6 split, plus have some cards that tap for mana of any color and pull out lands from your deck. So having triple Invoke here is pretty awkward because we're highly unlikely to run more than one of them. Even if we end up in green-black, I don't think I would want to run both the black Invoke and the green Invoke, because again, as I just said, I'd only want to run the one where I have 10 or 11 sources in that color. So if I try to do some kind of weird even split deck where I have, 9 mana sources of each color, I don't know, I guess maybe, run 18 lands, do a 9-9 split, and also have stuff that taps for any color, but we'll see how things progress here. It's quite unlikely we're running all 3 Invokes, and pretty unlikely we're even running 2 in the first place. So Soul Transfer here is a pretty great, nowhere near as hard to cast rare. It's just a nice little removal spell. Exile a creature planeswalker for only 3 mana. If you have an artifact and enchantment on board, you also get to return a creature planeswalker from your grave to hand. Tatsunari Toad Rider is another great rare, and it's going to be especially good if we manage to go down black-green. This allows us to spit out a 3/3 legendary frog whenever we cast an enchantment spell, and then if we cast more enchantments from that point on, we're just draining our opponent for 1 life instead. So this gives you basically an infinite chump blocker in Kaimi, or an infinite chump attacker. If you spit out that frog and you start attacking with it, your opponent is never going to want to trade for it or kill it because they know you can easily just replace it immediately on the next enchantment spell that you cast. And it's also got a really good ability. If you're just trying to punch in for some damage, you can give the Toad Rider and Kaimi the ability to be unblockable by creatures, except for those with flying or reach. So some really good rares here. The weakest of the bunch is probably a tie between Invoke Justice and Ishin, both for a very similar reason. They're both very, very color restrictive in terms of their mana costs for not that much of an impact. Ishin technically... or I guess Ishin, ideally, you get to play a bunch of Samurai and Warrior with Ishin, and they do have abilities whenever you attack with them, but no super impactful abilities to combo with Ishin. And then Invoke Justice, just the weakest of the 3 Invokes, while it is still quite a powerful card. But again, all of our other rares are in green-black really here, so pretty unlikely we get on the Invoke Justice path. So let's go ahead and take a look at our commons and uncommons and see where the support really lies. So I do like to take at least a small peek at each color. One of the easiest things to do is to go to your multicolored stuff first in case you have any good build around uncommons to check that out. And it looks like in multicolored, got that Ishin I really am not a fan of. Invigorating Hot Spring, quite a powerful card though. Giving the next 4 creatures you play +1/+1 and haste essentially. And any other creatures that are just naturally modified will have haste as well. Colossal Sky Turtle is really good for green-blue. Just a nice game-ending gigantic flyer that has the ability to channel for multiple different uses if you don't have the 7 mana, so it's just always nice to have a backup plan on your big game-ending bomb. So I like the multicolored cards, but nothing that massively leans me into any certain color pair. So we'll take a quick look at white, although white does look pretty weak overall. And the only big reason to play it is Invoke Justice, which would require that we be very heavy into white. Bunch of medium cards. Lucky Offering, Regent's Authority, just kind of mediocre little removal and combat tricks. I think Ancestral Katana is pretty powerful if you have a lot of Samurai or Warrior. Being able to equip this for only 1 is pretty huge. But we don't have like a boatload, and the ones that we do are like 4 mana. A couple 3 mana, a couple 4 mana. Yeah, nothing all that exciting in white. Some pretty average stuff going on there. Moving on to blue. Blue also looking pretty medium, pretty mediocre. Don't love running Spell Pierce in the main deck. Our 2-drops are fine. Armguard Familiar and the Modern Age are both great cards to just dump down on turn 2. That'll be pretty impactful later. Vector Glider becoming 2/3 flyer, Armguard Familiar being a nice equipment to move around. Covert Technician is nice with 2-mana artifact creatures like the Armguard Familiar. Nice little combo there. Discover the Impossible is unplayable in limited. Guardians of Burrow is not great. Sentinel's a lot to cast and to crew. Specialist is pretty good. Sky Swimmer Koi is good. Anchor to Reality is very specific, pulling out equipment or vehicles, so not likely to play that either. The Trespassers are pretty medium. Disruption Protocol is pretty medium. Pretty average blue stuff, I would say, as well. Moving on to black, this is a color we would really hope is pretty good, because we've got a lot of rares in black, so let's see what else we have there. Okiba Reconnerate, a great 1-drop. You're Already Dead is a fine little Blade Brand style trick to finish a creature off. Leech Gauntlet's great. Dokuchi's Silencer's great. Lethal Exploit's great removal. Reckoner's Bargain's nice little card draw. Death to the Kami is not very good. Just rarely hits what you want it to. Assassin's Ink's incredible. Yeah, I'd say our black is pretty dang great overall, so yeah, we get access to our Soul Transfer, our Tatsunari Toad Rider, and potentially our Invoke Despair. We also get Assassin's Ink as an excellent removal spell, Lethal Exploit as a solid removal spell, a couple great uncommons like Dokuchi Silencer and Leech Gauntlet, nice little 1-drop Okiba Reckoner Raid. Pretty happy with the black cards in general here. Taking a look at red, and then last but not least green after this. Certainly hoping black and green are the best colors supported by the uncommons and uncommons, because they're certainly the best colors as supported by the rares. So I don't think I'd main deck Explosive Entry here, although it is an option. There are a lot of artifact creatures in the format. I just don't want to get caught with my pants down against like green-white auras. Red's actually not bad. I don't think we have a lot to combo with this Kami of Industry, though, or the Shattered States era. Yeah, red's not bad. I'd say red is like slightly above average, even. Because I think the Kami's Flare is great, cheap removal. Goshintai of Ancient Wars is a really annoying blocker with that first strike there. It keeps chipping away at your opponent as well. Got a decent little bit of aggressive artifact stuff going on with the Song Shapers, getting extra power as you play artifacts, the Unstoppable Ogre just being a really high powerful artifact, and the Scrapyard Steelbreaker being a great game-ending artifact creature, because it's just really hard to block this well, or to block it profitably with that effect. So red actually looks pretty solid here. Even Gift of War is a pretty menacing card. Move on to green. Hopefully green's quite good, because I do really like the Invoke the Ancients green rare, so being able to play like green as the core with the black as the secondary color I think would be really nice. So Fang of Shigeki, I'm still a fan of this card. A 1-mana 1/1 Death Touch is always just a great deal, because it's going to trade into anything later in the game, and it's going to make your green removal spells like Master's Rebuke just that much better, because it just cares about your creature dealing damage. So if you do it with a Death Touch creature, you're going to kill anything with this removal spell. So I'm going to have them in the deck for sure, because we have double Master's Rebuke. My one qualm with this card is there are a lot of ways to kill 1 toughness creatures in this format, and I think that's something to be mildly concerned about. There's a 3-mana instant in red that's at uncommon that does 2 damage to one target and 1 damage to everything else. That'll just wipe out all your 1 toughness creatures. There's a 2-mana black uncommon Saga that'll give a creature -1/-1 the first turn and then -1/-1 the second turn. That can kill 2 of your 1 toughness cards. There's the Black Shrine also can just destroy a 1 toughness creature each end step. There are just a lot of ways that just hate on these little 1/1 style creatures that make me a little concerned, but still, when you have the good synergies with it, like Fang of Shigeki with Master's Rebuke, I'd still play it. That's just something to be aware of, to maybe not consider it as highly as you would normally. I think pretty much everything else in green I'm a pretty big fan of. Yeah, so we could just run all this as the core of the deck, and then just throw in a bunch of our best black cards here. Take a look at our colorless cards real quick, see if we have anything that pulls out a land from our deck. Fortunately, it looks like that is not the case. I would have loved to see one of the Ecologist's Terrariums in here to make this Invoke the Ancients much easier to do. But it looks like that's not going to happen. We do have the Greater Tanuki, at least, to search for a basic land from our deck, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. That'll be helpful. I'm not going to run Roadside Reliquary if I'm running a card that costs quadruple green, because that's just going to make the mana much more difficult. Mana just gets considerably more difficult if you're running colorless lands in your deck, and cards with 4 colored pips on them. So if we put just the cream of the crop black cards in here, how's the deck look? I want the Ambusher or the Shadow Walker here more. We have a lot of big green stuff, a lot of 5-drop green stuff. I don't think we need the bigger Ninjutsu card. Let's take the cheaper one here. So it'd be probably like this. If we're only running the cream of the crop of the black to go alongside with the green, that way the Invoke the Ancients is actually reasonably castable. We go a 10-7 split here with a Greater Tanuki to try to help out. Yeah, I mean, this looks fine. I'm still concerned about the Invoke the Ancients for sure. We just don't have a lot to help us get there. We just have Greater Tanuki, but we could also cut to the 10-7 like I did here, and then it's not completely unreasonable. We do have Orochi Mergekeeper. That is an 11th green source right there. Taps for a green mana. So that's helpful too. I think it's such a powerful card. I am still going to try to do it here, even if the mana fixing for it isn't perfect. Still looks solid to me. This card is just so good that you can wait until like turn 9 or whenever to cast this, and it'll still be an incredible deal. 2 4/5s with your choice of Vigilance, Reach, or Trample, whichever ability you need most. If your opponent has a bunch of 1/1 chumps and they're low on life, then just slam some Tramplers down. If your opponent's beating you down with Flyers, slam some Reach creatures down. And if you're still racing your opponent and you want creatures that can attack and block for you, then slam some Vigilance counters down. And you can split them up. You can have 1 with Vigilance, 1 with Reach, 1 with Reach, 1 with Trample, whatever you need. Such a good card. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy to just run this just kind of Golgari deck here. Golgari nonsense, really. Some might even say Golgarbage. Yeah, I think that's close enough to casting the Invoke. I am not putting the black Invoke in here, though. Because if I put that in, I would want to... For that to be reasonably castable at all, I definitely wouldn't want just 7 swamps. So every forest that I cut for a swamp is now going to make this Invoke that much harder to cast, and then I'll just have 2 really hard to cast Invokes instead of 1 moderately reasonable Invoke. And I think that's significantly worse in my opinion. When you have cards in your hand that just sit in there and don't do anything for a long time, that's a pretty big way to lose the game. So unless they're going to have an absolutely massive impact later, I just don't think it's worth it. Yeah, and Invoke Despair is going to be by the time we cast it, because we're not casting it turn 5. So by the time we cast it, the odds of them just having a little trump blocker or something is quite likely. So they probably just sack a creature, take 4, and we draw 2 on average. Like if they have a really good enchantment creature or something out, they'll just sack the enchantment creature and then they won't have to sack the enchantment on the second part. Then they're just never going to have a Planeswalker. We're in Magical Christmas Land if we're running a Planeswalker hate card and pretending our opponent's going to have a Planeswalker out every time. Yeah, I think I'm just going to run the deck like this. Just our strongest cards, decent mana fixing. Maybe I shouldn't be doing the Invoke. But I don't know, Greater Tanuki plus Orochi Merge Keeper. Those are 2 ways to pull out another green source, and we have 10 naturally. Although we do have to account for the fact that there's a non-zero amount of times that we're going to have to channel the Greater Tanuki to pull out a second Swamp for Soul Transfer or Assassin's Ink. But not much we can do in Sealed. We're dealt the hand we're dealt in terms of mana fixing. Like our only options here, we don't have any options to put more mana fixing in. Our only options are to cut more hard to cast cards out. Like maybe we could cut Assassin's Ink and Soul Transfer so that every black card that we have in the deck only costs a single black, but that's cutting 2 of our best black cards, just great removal spells. Or we can cut the Invoke the Ancients and go for a more even split to help with those double costs. I think I just want to stick to my really solid rare here. So let's go ahead and give it a name and get to some gameplay. There, we'll just name it Mana Fixing ? Put Invoke the Ancients as the deck box artwork. Get into some games and see if we actually get to cast this Invoke the Ancients, or if it'll just get stuck in our hand with 3/4 out. Here we are in round 1. We are on the play. We have 3 green sources if we draw an Invoke. We're quite a ways there, and the curve's really nice. We have a Merge Keeper, Web Spinner Cuff, Geothermal Kami, and a Lethal Exploit. And it has a bit of interaction, a bit of removal for whatever our opponent is trying to do. Our opponent will start off with a Scoured Barrens, so they're at least white and black. White, black, and red from our opponent. They're casting a Simian Sling. Little monkey that can equip for 2 mana to give +1/+1. Plus it has the static ability whenever it becomes blocked, it deals 1 to defending player. So we did hit a land, so we know we get to curve into this Tales of Master Sashiro, so I'm just going to play my biggest creature in order to do that. Just try to play bigger stuff than my opponent, since we have the mana ramp to get us there. Play a 4/3 on turn 3, then give it +1/+1 in Vigilance next turn, make it a 5/4 attack again. Should be quite nice, and looks like it's going to be. Our opponent casts Era of Enlightenment turn 3. They'll scry 2, then gain 2 life, then get a 2/2 First Striker. Scries 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom, and here we are, Tales of Master Sashiro. And hopefully, just some beefy creatures getting in can close this game out for us. It is quite early to call, though. But we do have a 5/4 out already, and this will flip into a 5/5 Vigilance Haste. It's going to be some large threats for our opponent to deal with. Plus, our Lethal Exploit is getting better. We're getting some modified creatures now. We have 1 currently, the Geothermal Kami. If we want, we can put a counter on the Merge Keeper so that Lethal Exploit is -4/-4. Although then the Kami will not have Vigilance. Plus, now they have 4 power on their board, so they could triple block the Kami to kill it. Although I think if they wanted to do that, that would just be a net gain for us. Now we have a Blossom Prancer to cast as well. So actually I'm going to put a counter on the Merge Keeper here. That way I have the mana to play Lethal Exploit and Blossom Prancer if I want to. And then I just attack with the Geothermal Kami. Likely not going to cast Lethal Exploit here unless they go for the triple block. That would be an incredibly bold block though, so they decide not to do that. So we'll go ahead and just cast Blossom Prancer, and it's possible we hit a 2-mana card we can cast off of our Orochi Merge Keeper. And if not, still have just tons of stuff on the board. We did hit a Goshintai of Boundless Vigor. So really flooding the board quickly here off of this Merge Keeper. Some super excellent stuff from that card this game. Vanishing Slash on the 5/4 Geothermal Kami. They have an enchantment and an artifact out, so they get a 2/2 out of it as well, which is pretty nice. That's really going to help them try to stabilize here. They've got a lot of creatures on the board they can stack together to go for some double blocks, some triple blocks. So it's going to be really important to hold on to this Lethal Exploit here to ruin one of their blocks. But because we have the Lethal Exploit, we're pretty free to just attack as we want. Alright, so Lethal Exploit is -3/-3 because we have one modified creature. Even if it wasn't, this would be enough of a minus to save the Living Legacy and trample over a bit. So definitely go for that. We'll drop our Web Spinner Cuff here. And get a counter on our Goshintai. Or Goshintai. So, everything we have is on the board if our opponent has some kind of Wrath effect that could get them back into it. Otherwise, they'll have to put in some work to match our power toughness on board. They're currently at 4 power and toughness. We've got 14 power. Pretty big disparity in the board states here. Alright, there are a lot of ninjutsu cards that'd be pretty bad here. Oh, okay. They're just trying to get the dragon token off. They can only make that with Goro Goro if they attacked with a modified creature. So that's what that's about. So we'll just take the snipe on the Iron Apprentice here. They get a counter on something else, could throw it on the flyer if they want. That way they have something that's easier to attack with, but they're most definitely going to need it on blocks here. And I can just equip my Web Spinner Cuff to my Vigilant creature, and then they just cannot get a good attack in here. Nor can they block well. They could block with all 3, and then I only kill the flyer. I think I'm still fine with this attack. Alright, just a chump there. We'll just continue stacking onto our Goshintai of Boundless Vigor. Alright, we'll see what kind of trick they have here. Four damage to this creature. So still just a 1-for-1 trade. Would have been a 1-for-1 trade on the attack if they triple blocked. So we're definitely fine with that. And a 7-tail Mentor. That does put a counter on one of their creatures to make sure they have a modified creature to try to attack with and make another card, but now we draw into Soul Transfer. Pretty excellent. We've got enchantment and artifact on board, so we get to pick up, what, a creature enchantment? Creature Planeswalker, so we have to pick up the Geothermal Kami. Still definitely worth it. I think we get rid of the 7-tail Mentor here. Without that, they won't have a modified creature for Goro Goro, so it's just getting rid of the bigger card. Let me just slam in with everybody. They could trade for our 2/2, I guess, but then they go to 1 life if that's their choice. Other than that, all they really have is a trump block. Alright, we'll trade for the 2/2, go to 1. Just in case some kind of wrath. I'll go ahead and hold on to Geothermal Kami. I don't think there's much else they can do to survive 3 creatures getting in. Any one of them is lethal. And I suppose I didn't have the mana for Geothermal Kami anyway. Actually, yeah, I did. I did, because I spent 1 mana in the end step on our Shrine of Boundless Vigor. So we had 4 before I went to the end step. Alright. The Shrine of Hidden Cruelty. It's not going to be enough. And that is going to end game 1. Round 2 of the Sealed here, and we've got a pretty good hand. Snap Keep here. 2-drop, a 3-drop bomb. We can even Harmonious Emergence on turn 4 to make sure we get that Kaimi frog token out as soon as possible. Moth Rider Patrol, turn 1 from our opponent. Nice 1-drop. Triggers all the cards that care about attacking with a Samurai or Warrior alone, and it gives you a good activated ability later in the game. It's also flying, so it's good at triggering ninjutsu. Just good at a lot of things. And they've got a buddy. Let's get our Toad Rider here. See if they have the cheap removal to deal with it. It would have to be a red removal spell to damage it, because if it's the 3 mana pacifism, we do still get its triggered ability, which is the important part. Alright, 3 damage to it, and 1 to our other creature. Get really brutally 2 for 1 by the Seismic Wave. So, Mukotai Embouchure it is, and if we hit a land next turn, that's going to be a great lead-in to the Tales of Master Sashiro. Ancestral Katana from our opponent, that is really good with those flying warriors. They can spend 1 mana to equip it. And a Rabbit's Battery as well. Pretty big fan of our opponent's deck as a whole here. Rather make the Embouchure bigger in lifelinking Vigilance, or just make a big Vigilance by itself. I think I'd rather make our lifelinker bigger in Vigilance this turn so that it doesn't get double blocked and killed, and then it'll be pretty impossible for our opponent to race it if they can't kill it. We're just gaining 4 life a turn. And if they don't kill it, we can even Master's Rebuke something, if they just try to keep tapping it down with Moth Rider Patrol's ability. Voltage Surge will get the kill, but at least they have to sacrifice the Rabbit Battery to do it. Take 4 in the sky here. Miss out on 1 counter from the Tales of Master Sashiro, but now we'll get a nice 4/5 Vigilance Haste for 5. Love the Harmonious Emergence. We even get to hold up our Master's Rebuke because of the Vigilance on our land. It's looking to be a close game here. It'll depend on what they have left in their hand. Still chipping at us pretty well, but we're going to have 9 power on the board attacking them next turn. Send in just the Imperial Subduer. Interesting. So I suppose they just want to get in for max damage and hold up the tap ability. Alright, so they spent the mana to put that there. I think I'll go ahead and destroy that in response so I don't take 5 here. Now that they've committed to moving the blade over. It'll cost them 3 to put it on the Moth Rider Patrol. If I killed it before that ability resolved, they could have just chosen not to do it to keep it on the Moth Rider Patrol. But now, yeah, now if they want to put it back on a Moth Rider Patrol, they have to spend 3, which means they don't have the mana to tap down one of our creatures. So we've got a pretty simple game plan now, which is to just attack with whatever we can each turn. And we should definitely outrace them, because anything that hits them for 4. Anything they have that hits us for 3. We're at 14, they're at 8, and we have a removal spell in hand now. Pretty excellent draw. Problem is we do need to hit another black source for it. So it's not going to help us in the here and now, but it will in the future. This is a Vigilance Trample? No, Vigilance Haste. Upriser Renegade. Well, they've got a chump blocker now. They don't have the mana to move the blade over, so nothing better. Greater Tanuki. We can cast a 6/5 if I choose not to attack with my land here. Or I can cycle this to grab the black mana for Assassin's Ink. That's actually giving us a really difficult decision. Because in order to cast this, we have to tap one of our creatures and not attack with it this turn. I guess we can do it post-combat, because they didn't hold up the mana to tap one of our creatures here. Yeah, we can just do it post-combat, never mind. Yeah, I'm pretty sure putting a big trampling creature on the board is going to be better than having an Assassin's Ink up next turn. Any one of these creatures hits them and they die, they definitely have to hold up the mana to tap down this one. And if they do that, they only have 1 mana up to play another creature to chump block with. And if they don't play a 1 mana chump blocker, they die on the spot. Because they tap this down and then take all that. I guess they actually need 3 blockers. They need 3 creatures. Plus the ability to tap down a trampler, and they don't have that, so that's just going to be game. Attack all, and there's the concession from our opponent, just bigger, beefier stuff than our opponent's capable of, with just our big green monsters. Our opponent's on the play here, so we're on the draw. We know we have turn 2 Orochi Merge Keeper, so we can at least make it to 3 mana. If we're lucky, we can ninjutsu out Mukotai Ambusher. I'm going to keep this. We're very much hoping for a land. If not multiple, but 1 land minimum to make it to the Ambusher being able to be hard cast without using its ninjutsu ability. Now our opponent has 6 cards in hand. They're on white at the least. Plains turn 1. Ninja's Kunai it is. Alright, no 2-drop. We did hit a land here, which is going to be excellent for us. Guarantees we drop our Ambusher down next turn, even if they play a blocker here. And even if they don't play a blocker, which they don't, I think I would rather just hard cast the Ambusher than pick up our Mana Dork. Next turn we have the mana for Invoke the Ancients, nice and early, because we did hit another green source, so we've got 4 green sources here. And if they use any removal, they're possibly wanting to throw it at the lifelinker instead, so that could be a nice lightning rod to attract their removal spells, keep them from the more important threat actually, which is our Mana Dork. And here it comes, here we go. I guess we could play the black source instead to exile the Kitsune and get in for 4. But it's probably best to just play as many big creatures as possible here. Just slam down Invoke the Ancients as early as possible. But then we're not getting any in for any damage this turn. I guess we can Rebuke instead of Soul Transfer, so we still have Soul Transfer backup. But if I Rebuke, they respond by crewing Brute Suit, and they still block the Ambusher. Yeah, let's just play Invoke. And I think I just want Trample or Vigilance here. We should be aggressive enough not to have to worry about counterattacks, especially with the lifelink on board potentially. So let's go Trample. Just make it real hard for our opponent to block our stuff. Especially because we have 2 removal spells in hand. Aki Ember Keeper. Whenever one of their modified creatures dies, they get a 1/1 out of it. So when they block with the Kitsune. So they're going to try to block with the Kitsune, let it do its first strike damage to our 4/5, and then shoot it for 3 in response. We can't really Master's Rebuke to like, oh, surprise, gotcha, if they do that though. Because, right, they'll block, then they'll let the first strike damage happen, and then after the first strike damage happens, then they'll try to use the thing, in which case we could respond with Rebuke, but then our creature would still take the next 3 damage and die anyway. So I kind of feel like I just main phase like a Soul Transfer here, although if I Soul Transfer, I don't get to Harmonious Emergence. I can Harmonious Emergence and still Master's Rebuke. So I guess I'll go for that. And we'll just have 3 4/5s here, and we kind of just, we let them kill 1 4/5. I guess we could still Rebuke in response to them blocking just before they activate the Kunai, but then they'll activate the Kunai on one of these 2 and still get something out of the block at least. But I don't think I want to do it pre-combat, because if I do it pre-combat, that requires not attacking with this. And it's possible they'll stack it on wrong. If they try to use the Kunai before their first strike damage resolves, then we can get them. Probably messed this up, but let's find out. Do they have one more opportunity? No. Alright, yeah, I messed it up. But that's okay. We'll let them kill a 4/5. We get to keep our Ambusher down instead. Yeah, I can't kill Kitsune in response here. But now we've got that Kunai out of the way and we can gain some life. And we still have Soul Transfer. Alright, so now that I know for the future how many times it gives them priority before it gives me priority, we would have just Rebuked before the first strike damage. But Arena's so, like, it's hard to see, like, into the specifics of the steps there. On Magic Online, it has, like, really detailed, here's first strike, here's this, here's that, and I know exactly when I'm supposed to cast it there. Arena's just, like, little pictures. There's no first strike in the middle there. So we have an artifacted enchantment now, but we don't have a creature engrave. So it doesn't really matter that we double up on Soul Transfer's ability. Just exile the 4/3. They'll crew the 4/3 vehicle in response, but it's a vehicle. And the only way they kill a 4/5 is a double block, in which case they have no creatures left because nothing they have is modified. We could trade Ambusher off into either of these and it's probably fine, because we have the 4/5s left over if they want to kill the Ambusher. Because again, the only way to kill a 4/5 is a double block for them, which means they have nothing left to block an Ambusher. Yeah, this is pretty sweet. Kill them both. They have 1 card in hand. We've got a bigger board state here. Should be able to ride the Invoke the Ancients to victory here. Yep, now they're forced into a bad block with the Peerless Samurai, because if they don't block the 4/5, they die. So they have to chump here. Yeah, and they will scoop them up there. So definitely some less than ideal plays there. Some misplays for sure with the Master's Rebuke. But in a game where our rares take us right to victory, so we get to leave room for mistakes like that just to learn for the future. Pretty excellent hand here. We are on the draw. We've got a turn 2 creature to slam down, and we can just keep putting counters on it for a while. Then we'll have Tales of Master Sashiro. We have the double black for our black removal spell. We have a green removal spell too. I like the hand a lot. Dockside Chef's a great start from our opponent. They can use that to sacrifice an artifact or creature at instant speed to draw a card. It's exceptionally good in black-red, where they have a lot of expendable artifacts that already just want to die. And they have double Dockside Chef. Wow, that is an incredible sealed pool so far from our opponent. We'll see if they have the synergy to go with it. If they do, this is going to be quite a good deck from our opponent, because those Dockside Chefs are killer. Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, no, this is wild. This looks like a draft deck hardcore right now. Because the Circuit Mender are also a card that combos well in the Rakdos Sacrifice deck, letting them draw a card when it leaves the battlefield. Combos well in Ninjutsu too, because when it leaves the battlefield for any reason, they get to kind of pop off there. I want to make this a 2/2 so they can't attack with the chefs anymore, so I'm not holding up Assassin's Ink, so I guess I should have played the green source in case we draw into our quadruple green card. Just played the black source because I was like, oh, I can hold up Assassin's Ink or Rebuke, but no, I want to hold up a 2/2 blocker to stop the chefs. Discard a boar for +3/+1 trample, and this is just straight up the perfect Rakdos deck. Yeah, if they've got it, they've got it. Go for it. If you have the Stone Cold Nuts. Maybe they just have an ninjutsu here. They really want to pop off. Alright, pop off a ninjutsu, sure. Got any other tricks? They have something else in hand here, if they're waiting this long. So I don't want to just like go for a Rebuke on Ambusher till they cast something here. Now I can go for a Rebuke on Ambusher before that resolves. Cool. Not the worst combat ever for us. A lot of things going off. But now they're down to just the 1/2s and the 2/3 again. We've got our Assassin's Ink at the ready now. Fortunately, our hand might be too slow to survive here. We're only taking 4 a turn for now, so I don't know, maybe we get there. If I kill any of these, they get to draw 2 cards, because if I try to target that, they sack, draw 2. So if I wanted to kill, I had to do it during my turn. I did not want to kill, because I just wanted to make sure if they play anything 4 power, 5 power, we kill that instead. That is pretty big, isn't it? And it puts the ninja in their hand? Wow, that's really bad for us. We were hoping it's like one of the kind of cards that's like all their eggs in one basket, like one big 6/6. If it's one like moderately sized 3/3 plus they draw their 3/2 back, that's really bad. I guess I can still kill it while they can't sack it to draw a card at least. Then that lifelinker is just going to get in on us. Ninjutsu back the Circuit Mender, draw a card when they do so. No, cast a Kami of Terrible Secrets. If they hit a land, okay, I was going to say if they hit a land, this is just absolute madness coming down from our opponent. We get to play Greater Tanuki, we block there, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we die. Because we play one blocker. Play one blocker. They have 3 power guaranteed, ninjutsuing one of their creatures. And then, yeah, 3 power from the other 2. Yeah, we can't live. That is game. Yeah, I was going to say I could play it out and maybe they'll mess up, but they played really well so far, so I'm not going to do that. 3 and 1. Pretty big fan of this hand. This is quite a quick one. Turn 1, Okiba Reckoner Raid. Turn 2, Go Shintai Boundless Vigor. Turn 3 will... almost cheat turn 1. Turn 3, Channel the Greater Tanuki to pull out the land for Tales of Master Sashiro to come down on turn 4. So really quick hand here. But We are on the draw, so it's not going to be as fast as it could have been. Teaching the Kieran from our opponent turn 2, pretty great rare. A pretty great card. Not really the greatest thing in terms of rare power level, but a super solid card nonetheless. Essentially, it's going to get them a 2-2 by making a 1-1, putting a counter on it. And then it's going to flip into this other 1-1. That's essentially another 2-2, because when it attacks, exile thing, put a counter on it. So it's kind of 2-2-2s for only 2 mana. And that's like the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, they get to keep popping off, making a bunch more 1-1s, or getting a bunch more counters. So quite a solid card. Oh, we drew Tatsunari Toad Rider here, so I'm actually not going to channel the Tanuki. I'm probably just going to slam that down. Do we want to attack for 1? Well, it's not like we're blocking with 1. So we'll play our Tatsunari Toad Rider. And now when we cast our Tales of Master Sushiro on turn 5 here, we'll get a nice 3-3 out of it as well. Plus, a 3-3 blocker on the board state. Keeps them from attacking without a combat trick or removal spell. Yeah, so it looks like straight to main phase 2 here, no attacks. And they just passed the turn, cool. And we drew a 1-mana artifact, so we get to cast Fang of Shigeki, then channel the Tanuki to make sure we can cast these tails. We get a frog when we do so, which is incredible. Just absolutely absurd here. They can double block to kill Tatsunari, that feels bad to me. They can double block to kill the Road Captain, doesn't seem great. I'm just going to pass. And I'm not going to pay that mana, because I want to channel this Greater Tanuki. Make sure we're casting a Tales of Master Sushiro the next turn, and then the turn after. And then we're probably just going to keep slamming in with our legendary frog that is replaceable with Tatsunari Toad Rider's effect. Probably even just attack in with it or before we cast Tales of Master Sushiro, so attack in with it and then cast Tales main phase 2. That way if they do double block to trade or anything like that, we'll just get it right back. Spinning Wheel Kick. 2 damage to one of our cards, kills Goshintai. Fair enough. They don't have enough power out to kill the Toad Rider or the Toad itself, so just kill what they can. Pass turn, let's go ahead and channel the Greater Tanuki. Grab another green source. And here's, well, don't want to do it right now. I suppose I do, actually. If I do it right now, I'm attacking with more creatures. Because we slam a counter there, now they can't even double block and kill that. If they want to double block and trade there, that's good, because we'll just play another enchantment later. And we'll just get full aggressive here. Because we're going to cast another Tales of Master Sushiro, putting more counters on the creatures that are left over, making them even bigger threats. And then, of course, when we're done doing that, we get more 5/5s with haste. Just a lot of power on this board state, even if they make good blocks. So we'll just let them go for it how they please. Alright, they are down to 7. And that's the concession from our opponent. Maybe stuck on a lot of 5-mana cards there. Only 4 mana down. Even if they made it to casting some good cards from their hand, our board state had gotten pretty ridiculous at that point. So that is now 4-1. Mono green hand, but we're pretty cool with that. Got 10 green sources, only 7 black, so this will definitely happen. And we've got a great turn 1, turn 2 play. Some great options on turn 5. Our Tails again, or our Blossom Prancer. Both pretty excellent cards. We're against Greg. Alright, Fang of Shigeki is down. Opponent is on a white deck here. White black, a really cool color pair focused around having artifacts and enchantments on the board to trigger some of the more powerful cards like Naomi. White, black, and red here could be an Ishin deck, a samurai/warrior deck here, starting with the Unforgiving one as their first play. We've got the mana to get a counter on this Go Shintai, then kill that with Master's Rebuke, or we could just kill it with Master's Rebuke right now to keep getting in. Pretty okay with that. Sure, I'm not going to have removal left over, but we're hoping this is another matchup where we can just play bigger cards than them. We already have a 5/5 Vigilance Haste in hand. That's going to make our other creatures bigger. This Go Shintai is already getting pretty big, a 3/3 trample currently. Blossom Prancer draws us another creature. Yeah, they're going to go ahead and exile our Trampler there. So I think I'd rather Blossom Prancer than Tales of Master Sashiro here, because if I do, I'm just making a 2/2 Vigilance. So we'll play the Blossom Prancer, and then we'll Tails next turn. If we don't draw another good creature to slam down instead, we do draw Tatsunari Toad Rider. It's probably the best out of these cards. This card is just sick. And I am going to go ahead and draw into that. A little awkward with the 5 mana enchantment, because we can't cast them both in one turn. But they are still both some great cards to cast in the future, whatever order we decide to do it. Takenuma Abandoned Mire, played by our opponent here. Just lets them return something from grave to hand. We do draw an Assassin's Ink. We are going to need another black source to cast that. With a 4/1 on our opponent's board, I kind of want to play Tales of Master Sashiro before I play the Toad Rider, which is a little weird, but well, it just lets us attack for 5 here. Put him down to 8. If we cast Toad Rider, we're only attacking with the 1/1 here. Yeah, I guess I'm just going to cast Tales of Master Sashiro. Slam in. They have to 2-for-1 themselves to kill the Prancer. Now they could block with a 4/1 and then throw a 3 damage spell at it or something from red. This also gets us closer to having a 5/5 Vigilance Haste on the board, which is a pretty big deal, pretty big threat. Bigger than the Toad Rider if it's alone. Opponent takes all of the damage, does not even trade for the Death Toucher there. And Befriending the Moths is the play this turn. They can hit us for 5 if they want, but then they just die on the crackback. So that is not what they choose to do. Geothermal Kami is nice with Tatsunari. I'm going to put another counter on the Blossom Prancer. That way with Geothermal Kami, next turn I can pick up the Fang and just recast it if it's still around. Alright, and they're just going to scoop them up here. Alright, here we are now in round 8 with a pretty excellent hand. Great interaction with whatever our opponent's trying to do, and we do have the double black to cast it all. Turn 3 Tatsunari Toad Rider. Can be pretty threatening as well. Moon Circuit Hacker. We don't need the mana from Merge Keeper to drop down Toad Rider next turn, so I'm just going to go ahead and shoot the Hacker here. I'm going to do it before they have the mana to play any tricks. There's a pretty fun one that doesn't see a lot of play. That's 3 mana to make something a 4/5 till end of turn and draw a card. That would absolutely blow us out if we tried to kill that during their turn. That being said, as I said before, it doesn't really see a lot of play, so not sure if they would have it there. Go Shintai of Hidden Cruelty. That's going to be pretty good at killing our Fang of Shigeki, but playing our Fang of Shigeki makes sure that we have a 3/3 Frog here. Plus, it allows us to cast Assassin's Ink and just kill that Go Shintai before they have the ability on the stack. So we'll just do that. There's a Virus Beetle from our opponent. Pretty easy discard for us. An Ambusher, a Merge Keeper, pretty solid. Make it so they can't block the 3/3s, but they're already probably planning on trading to the Death Toucher. Do we want to let them chump block or say no? If they want to chump block, they can chump block, I think. Alright, they don't want to chump block. I've got the mana to just recast the Toad Rider here anyway, so let's do so. Because then we just get lifelink and we'll have more life here, but the same board state. Because if I spent 4 mana to hard cast the Merge Keeper, that's cute. I'm out of enchantments, so I don't really need the Toad Rider, but that is cute. That is the one problem I was not considering there. They could just have a counterspell up for it. Yeah, go ahead and ninjutsu us. They did not have a ninjutsu though. Did have a mind control though. These cards are infuriating and limited. They're always an incredible deal. A 2-for-1 every time. Steal your opponent's best creature as your own. So we're not in a great spot anymore. Still probably in the lead here, but not by much. Wow, Mindlink Mech is pretty disgusting too. Becomes a combo of whatever they crew it with, so if they crew it with the Lifelinker, they'll have a 4/3 Lifelink Flyer to send at us. Tales of Master Sashiro. We put a counter on something, we can force them to trade it for the Mindlink Mech or double block. That would only be if we put it on the Frog, and the Frog drains them for a life whenever we cast the thing, which is pretty big. That being said, if I don't get rid of their Lifelinker, they're going to lifelink in for us for 4 a turn, so they drain us for more than we do. So I think I'm offering the trade of the Frog here, or with the Frog here. Because yeah, we get rid of the mech. Get rid of their lifelinker, which is huge. Not their only lifelinker, but their only lifelinker that'll actually hit us. Master's Rebuke is pretty spectacular. Don't want to put all my eggs in one basket on this Goshintai. Should put counter on the Merge Keeper so it taps for 2. Be all fancy with it. Don't really want to trade in with it still though. I think I'm just going to pass the turn, go for a Master's Rebuke during their end step, I suppose. Get rid of their Mukotai Ambusher, get rid of their lifelink. 2 cards in their hand. They have double black now and they didn't have it before. Okay, so it is the just the removal spell here to kill that. We'll go ahead and kill their lifelinker, I guess. And now we'll be attacking with a 5/5 Vigilance Haste. They'll pretty much have to chump block next turn. Or take 1,000,000. Or they can trade into either of these two. Let's just put max pressure on here. Trade there, take 6, go down to 7. Or chump block and take 3. Chump block is the choice. Play the green source if we draw our Invoke. We can cast it without using our Merge Keeper now. Right, kill our 2/2, kill our 1/1, but our 5/5 still going strong. And a nice draw of the Okiba Reckoner Raid. One more swing will do it. Alright, chump blocker. So it makes it a turn for sure. Go ahead and play our Silencer. So even if they get a chump blocker now, they're taking 2 and going to 1 life. And they're going to scoop them up. That is 6 and 1. in the money. Just 9 packs for free out of the sealed event. Feels pretty good. Here we are now, 6-1 in round 8, what may well be the final round. If we can pull out a win here, but if we don't, we've got another shot to get a nice 7-win run out of this sealed event. Pretty excellent curve here. Get our Tales of Master Sashiro down early with our Orochi Merge Keeper, and slam into our opponent a bunch because they're giving us these rat tokens. They're going to take them all back when this hits number 3, but until then, we can just get a lot of damage in. We can even kill one of their rats by ninjutsuing, which is pretty cool. I think I'd like to just do that here. Let's just kill one of their rats so they don't get 2 rats back. They only get 1. The idea behind the card, you give your opponent some rats, steal all the rats back, and then you start sacrificing them with the flying creature to draw cards. So hopefully we can just pressure them enough with their own rat tokens to just kill them before they get much value off the flyer. Fall of Lord Konda, that'll exile the Mukatai Ambusher. Pretty good against an ninjutsu card that comes out early like that. Get our Merge Keeper down, we're going to start slamming down at Tales of Master Sashiro next turn. Now they have a 3/3 flyer and get their rats back and draw extra cards off of it. This is where Tribute to Hirobi is going to get very scary for us. Selfless Samurai, so when one of their samurai or warrior attacks alone, it'll get lifelink, and they can sacrifice that to give something else indestructible until end of turn to go ahead and save something like the Echo of Death's Wail. So put a counter on our Fang, offer the trade for the samurai, because it'll have vigilance as well here. Opponents can respond grabbing a plains, gaining some life. But the Selfless Samurai is a pretty ridiculous card, so I'd always love to get it off the board, make sure they can't be saving their creatures with indestructibility at a later time. Plus the attack is free because of vigilance. Still get to hold back as a blocker. The Fragment of Konda has flipped. They now have a 1/3 defender that will draw a card when it dies. They can even just sacrifice it to the Echo of Death's Wail to go ahead and draw 2 cards off of it, which is pretty fancy. Attacking with the Echo and the Samurai. This is just the easiest block on the Samurai ever. I already offered the trade with it earlier, so I'll accept the trade on the block here. And then Junji, the Midnight Sky. Pretty terrifying card here. Whenever it dies, I have to discard 2 cards and lose 2 life, or they put a non-dragon from their graveyard onto the battlefield and lose 2 life. Yeah, the Mythic Rare Dragons are quite powerful. They're always just absurd up front. 5/5 Flying Menace, and then they have backup plans if they even die. They get a Sunblade Samurai back, so there's really nothing we can do about that here. We have 1 modified creature as well, so Lethal Exploit's only -3/-3 anyway. I guess we get to kill Echo of Death's Wail, which I think is probably worth it.
Together, we are unstoppable.
Cast another Tales of Master Seshiro, so we get another 5/5 out sooner. And we'll kill that whale. The Echo of Death's Wail. So we're just trying desperately to outrace this massive Flying Menace creature here. Highly unlikely it'll happen, but we'll see what we can do. Blossom Prancer is certainly helpful for that. see what we get with this. And if we want, we can just gain 4 life with it too. Tatsunari Toad Rider and Geothermal Kami. Neither of those speed up our clock all that much. Yeah, it's kind of just a 3-3 by itself or just a 4-3 by itself. We can bring something back to our hand. None of these are particularly great to put back in our hand though anyway. I think I want to just gain the 4 life, because currently we're dying in 2 hits to this. Right, we take 6, go to 5, we take 6, die. But if I gain 4 life, we take 6, go to 5, or I'm sorry, we take 6 and go to 9, and then we take 6, go to 3, and then we can take 6 a third time. I think I'd rather just have an extra turn of life, so I'll just decline. And then we just keep attacking all, and hope we outpace this. Even if they put another counter on Junji with the 7-Tail Mentor's Death Trigger, it's still just 7 damage, so we take 7, go to 8, take 7, go to 1, and then we will, we'll take 3 hits from Junji. Alright. Undercity Scrounger, pretty big blocker. Luckily all our creatures are 4/4s or 5/5s. Another Fall of Lord Konda, super bad for us. Get rid of the Blossom Prancer. Their flyer has menace, so they didn't even need to do that. I would have expected them to kill the bigger attacker, but that's fair enough, I guess. Now even if we draw another flyer or reach creature, we don't get to block there. Unfortunately, Clawing Torment makes it 2 swings to death, because that'll do a damage to us in our upkeep. This is just some absurd stuff from our opponent. We do draw the next reach creature. Ouch. So it would have mattered that they killed our reach creature there, because we do top deck the next one to double block Junji. So the only way to win is to find lethal this turn immediately, which is not going to happen. They take 10 and block that. Even if we reconfigure this onto something, take 10 to block that, we just die in the sky. It's game. Here we are in the final round of Magic, win or lose. No matter what happens here, we got a free sealed out of the event, which is fantastic. And I think we got a pretty good deck today, and a pretty good start to this game. So I'm feeling moderately confident here. We'll see how things go. Opponent is on green as well. Get our turn 2 Leech Gauntlet, that'll be really nasty. 2/2 Lifelinker turn 2. When I first read this card in spoiler season, I thought that you could reconfigure it on something else and it would get +2/+2 in lifelink. I was like, that card's just unbeatable. That's absolutely absurd. But it just gives lifelink when it's equipped to something, which is fine. It's fine. I should have played green source there, in case we draw our quadruple green card. But I suppose we have 2 double black cards and only the 1 quadruple green, so who's to say? But if we top deck a card that costs double black, we can just play a swamp the turn we draw it. We can't really do that with a card that costs quadruple green. Go Shintai of Shared Purpose. They get to start spitting out some 1/1s here. That'll be pretty annoying. I think I'd rather just put the pressure on as quickly as possible. Cast Harmonious Emergence here to get attacking in again. Attack with everybody. If they block the Fang or the 4/5, their creature dies. If they block Leech Gauntlet, they take 5. Another pretty great showing of Harmonious Emergence here, keeping the pressure on. They're down to 8. There's their own Harmonious Emergence, another great showing from Harmonious Emergence. We'll bounce off each other, see if they want to make a 1/1 here. Probably not. They do. They would rather play a 1/1 than hold up their 4/5 blocker. It's going to make things pretty good for my 4/5 attacker here. I guess that stops the Stops the 1/1 Death Toucher from getting in well because they just trade right there. They could double block Leech Gauntlet now as well. That's true, so it just blocks right there. Makes these attacks pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty solid from our opponent there. Yeah, it's pretty smart from them. I would have just held on to 4/5 blocker, but I think that would be worse. Although, I don't know, come to think of it, if they just had a 4/5 blocker up, that would also just stop the Leech Gauntlet attack. But it wouldn't stop the Fang of Shigeki attack, like creating a 1/1 did there. Generous Visitor to get +1/+1 counters whenever they cast enchantment spells. Put the counter wherever they want, which is really nice. Now we have a Tales of Master Seshiro, which will be excellent. Make our Blossom Prancer 5/5 Vigilance, I think. That's what I want to do. They can, if I attack with both of these, they can double block to kill one, block with a 4/5 and a 1/1 together, and I only kill the 4/5. I think it's worth it. We're on the aggressive here. We've got 26 life, they've got 8. So let's put the pressure on, get them to whittle down some of their creatures on the board. If they want to kill one, they've got to double block and lose their biggest creature. Or spend a combat trick. That'll work too. Either way, whittle down their resources. The combat trick is no more. There's a Blossom Prancer of their own, pretty spectacular card, as we have seen on our board. And a Michiko's Reign of Truth. Really good with a vigilant creature, like their planes there. Can make sure that gets in for some ridiculous attacks. Although, we still have the Death Toucher. As long as we're not attacking with the Death Toucher, we just threaten a really good block. Make this a 5/6. We still only kill the planes if they block with multiple cards. Kind of fine. Can reconfigure our Leech Gauntlet, at least gain a bunch of life off of it in the process. See if we get rid of their 4/5 now that they're tapped out. That's ridiculously good against Harmonious Emergence. Wow. Yeah, usually you don't get got this bad by Harmonious Emergence, but this one rare from the set will just make it 1 mana exile the card. That's absolutely brutal. Pretty annoying. And they've had multiple just insanely good tricks against what we're doing here. Now repel the Vial, perfectly timed to stop the 5/5 from coming down. Yeah, no, the timing of their answers here has been just insane. This is not looking good for us anymore. Whatsoever. That was a really poor sequence of turns for us. They have the Hexproof Indestructible trick too. Pretty sure they do, with how long they waited there. Ooh, Assassin's Ink to kill their 4/4 now. Board state is certainly better than theirs if we do that. Well, no, because they still have Ghost Shintai, which is a problem. I guess I just hold on to this for now. Yeah, if they make Blossom Prancer even bigger here, they made it a 5/5, now they're going to make it just a really big attacker. We probably have to pop that. We let them keep making their 1/1s. I mean, really annoying to attack into, but at least now they're not attacking into us very well. Yeah, I guess they don't have the Hexproof Indestructible spell there. Which surprises me. And the top deck war is on. Pretty great start for our opponent. A 4/4 Vigilance plus +1/+1 counter on one of their other creatures. Let's see if we can top that. Swamp certainly does not top their draw. That is drastically worse. See what we get now. Or see what they get now. Spirited Companion. Another phenomenal draw here. They get a counter on one of their cards and a 1/1 on the board and draw another card, which is then immediately removal for our biggest creature. Plus Weaver of Harmony in hand they've had at some point. For another enchantment. For another counter. That can also copy abilities. Well, what is our next draw on the top deck war? Geothermal Kami. Nowhere near enough at this point. Just a phenomenal few turns from our opponents with just excellent answers to what we had, and then last turn with like 3 draws in one. Yeah, from the March of Otherworldly Light forward was an abysmal game for us. That is going to end it. 6-3 it is. So an unfortunate loss in the end, but still a really great record overall, and quite a nice deck out of this sealed event. Pop open the deck for one last look at it, but that is going to end today's video. As always, if you'd like to see more videos like this, just stick around on the channel. I do these quite often, as close to daily as I can. You can also check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below if you'd like to catch me play some drafts on occasion live. I will be doing some live streams this month as I try to hit Mythic Limited in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. So once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.